Welcome back to another episode of Capes and Tights podcast right here on capesandtights.com. I'm your host, Justin Soderberg. It's the holiday season, everybody. We're here to talk holiday reading gifts. So the book lover, the bookworm in your life, comic book fan in your life, what are you going to be buying them this Christmas, this holiday season, this Hanukkah, this whatever you celebrate this December? What are you going to buy your loved ones and your bookworms in your life? So we talk a number of titles on here. The list of what we talked about, a majority of those books are going to be listed on our website, capesandtights.com. So check that out in this post for this video or this audio podcast. So if you want to actually know more about it, head over to capesandtights.com, click on the link, and you can actually purchase it or look into more about the book or graphic novel. Gibran Graham was here from the Briar Patch to talk about these presents, these gifts, these reading list extraordinaires of your lifetime. I don't know what I'm saying right now. Trying to make it sound a little bit more exciting. It is exciting. We talk books, graphic novels, and all that. You're here on the Capes and Tights podcast for episode 69. Enjoy, everybody, and hopefully this helps you pick out something for your loved ones in your life. And like always, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Hive at Capes and Tights on Hive. So check us out there as well. But always capesandtights.com for way more than you probably need in your life. But check us out. Gibran Graham of the Briar Patch in Bangor, Maine, talking Christmas holiday reading gifts for your loved ones. Enjoy, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. How are you?
I'm great.
I feel like we said that before. We'll
like
see how we go.
Hog Day over here.
Yeah, exactly. See how we go. It's one of the downsides of doing the podcast via the internet is that when the internet doesn't work very well, the podcast doesn't go very well. So we're going to make it through this and do what we can with this internet skipping here a little bit. But welcome.
Well, I'm glad to be here, even if I'm choppy, you know?
Yes. Well, I mean, most of us people listen to the audio anyway, so we have more listeners than we do watchers, so that's fine with me. I don't care about that. But yeah, it's now officially the holiday season, right?
Absolutely. It is in full force. And this weekend, with, Small Business Saturday, Black Friday, which in downtown Bangor, we adopted it as Plaid Friday, give a little more cozy, independent feel. It's been a busy weekend, and we're looking forward to the rest of the holiday season being like this too.
Yeah, and so and you're obviously open. We're recording this on a Monday. You're obviously open today.
Yeah, down here at the Briar Patch in downtown Bangor. We are open 7 days a week, and we'll be open till 6 all day today. It's officially a lot of retailers, especially online, talk about this being Cyber Monday. Another sort of independent feel that we adopted from some other stores in the country is Cider Monday, and we actually have mulled cider and cookies for all of our customers that come in and want to shop in person rather than online.
There you go. I mean, I'll say I had cider last night, but it was a little different. I had a Prosecco and cider, so a cider mimosa. So it's a little different than the cider you're probably serving today, but
I think I really need to have like a Briar Patch after hours kind of event, but maybe
we've talked about
year.
that with Paul Eaton over at Galactic Comics. We've talked about the after hours thing. Maybe we could do set it up with like a bus that drives people around, and you can like almost like a bar hop, but different like small businesses where you can pop in there. They have a cocktail for you. You shop, go to the next place.
Store, like a store crawl.
That's awesome. But yeah, we're here to talk about some books and stuff like that. I called it a holiday reading gifts, but really just we've focused a lot over the years on this podcast of movies and TV and all that stuff, but we've pushed ourselves into more of the going into the written word of things, a little bit less of the reviews and things like that on the podcast. So I thought I've done a lot more reading this year, and I thought that'd be kind of cool to talk to someone who sells books for a living. And so we'll talk about some books. I have, I think, about 10 things that I pulled off my shelf, which kind of makes me upset because now it looks like it's all in shambles. But if my video is skipping anyway for anybody watching, so it doesn't really matter at this point. But I thought I'd just go through, I don't know how you want to do this, just go through a couple ideas you have, or we didn't really talk about this. We literally decided this like on Friday or Saturday. So
Well, I am surrounded by books and related items. And actually, even closer to me here, I've brought a whole bunch of stuff, so we'll see what we can get through and see what I can sell to you, Justin.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I wanted to make a disclaimer a little bit. It's funny to think about that out of the stack I have on my right here of 5 books, like actual, novels or books themselves. And I have 5 graphic novels, straight paperbacks on the left-hand side of me. Every single person on the right has either been a guest on the podcast or will be in before the early 2023. That is not because I'm trying to just promote the podcast. It's because when I book a guest on the podcast, I tend to dive into their stuff so that I kind of have like a knowledge on their stuff, even if it's like, let's see, Kevin Scott's coming on the podcast. I'm not talking about his Star Wars stuff, but I'd like to have a little bit of knowledge of his High Republic books and things like that when I go into it. But the funny thing is, being a comic book podcast, my graphic novel side, I literally have only had one other people on the podcast, and that's Ben Bishop of The Last Ronin and of Aggregate. And,
wait, who? Have I ever heard of this guy? No.
And it's kind of funny about how I had that set up that way. But what I'm currently reading, and you just got in for me, is The Clown in the Cornfield by Adam Caesar. This is a Harper teen book, but you know what? I honestly think it's kind of one of those ones that, to me, I always get thrown off by teen, because this book over here is also a young adult teenish graphic novel. And this has the F word in it. So if anybody wants to pick this up, I gave it to someone who was in like a freshman in high school or just below a freshman in high school. And I said, just to let you know, parents, there is the F word in here. I just wanted to give a little disclaimer, even though this seems okay, there's an F word in here. They're like, oh no, they hear it all the time. But reading this book, it's pretty graphic, honestly. It's as much as I would like to say it's a toned down horror, it's actually an adult would really enjoy this Harper teen book. Honestly, it's an easy read. Ooh, someone just fell out of it. A price tag. I'm reading this. I promise you guys, I'm reading it on an audiobook in the car. So that's why I am a collector. I'm a hoarder of sorts. I don't care if I buy it on audiobook or not. I buy the physical copy as well to put on the shelf because I like to have it. And also, they're great to give as borrowing to people. Like if someone wants to borrow the book, or if you want to give it to someone as a gift, you already have it and you give it to them, and then you buy a replacement copy, right?
Exactly.
No, yes, yeah. But yeah, so Clown in the Cornfield is one that I would recommend any horror fan in general, but any horror young adult horror fan. And then Gibran over there has my copy of Clown in the Cornfield 2, Friendo Lives, which is his sequel, Adam's sequel to this book. And he's working on a 3rd book in this series as well currently. And it's been optioned. Did you know that, Gibran?
I did not.
It's been optioned awesome for a film, so I'm excited for that too. I feel like this has the opportunity to be a good like Halloween, Friday the 13th feel, with Friendo the Clown being the villain in this book. It gives me that kind of like, I don't know. It reminds me a lot of those kind of books where it's like a killer in a mask of sorts, which is really cool. And then Adam Caesar and David Stoll will be on the podcast in January to talk about their comic book Dead Mall, which is awesome as well. Nice. So this one, and then I also brought up the Clementine book. Those are 2 like young adult books. This is in the Walking Dead universe by Tilly Walden. Any of Tilly's books I'll recommend, right? I mean,
yes, absolutely.
I think you have on it. I thought I saw on your shelf, you do have On a Sunbeam there at the shop. So
we carry all of Tilly Walden's books. Yeah, we carry all of her books. They're fantastic.
This one has a signed book plate.
Nice.
Got that at Midtown Comics.
Like Clown in the Cornfield, when that first came out, we brought that into the store, and it certainly gave me these vibes of like this mashup of different Stephen King stories, right? You've got like It, and then Children of the Corn, and it's just like oh, perfect. This is, how can I not carry this in Bangor, Maine? So I'm glad you're enjoying it.
I really, like I said, this is one of those ones that I booked Adam and David to be on the podcast to talk about the comic book they wrote together at Dark Horse. But when I saw that he had written this, I was like, oh, maybe I'll give this a shot. I was looking for something else to read. I was just finishing up a bunch of biographies on people. And so I thought maybe I'll get into something that's more of a fiction. And this became awesome. And then I messaged you, was like, can you get Friendo Lives? And you said, of course I can. And then you made a joke that you already had this one in stock, but I didn't buy it from you. So I'll be honest with you. I'll tell you right now, I bought this at BAM.
Ouch. Ah. No, I'm kidding.
It wasn't Amazon. I'll tell you that much. Well, what I wanted to say is at the top, and I forgot to say it, is like buy local and shop local. But a lot of these ones, I have a DC, which is really weird, trade in my pile here. But I have like Ben Bishop, some stuff from him. A lot of these other things too. If you can't buy local, or you don't have a local store that has it, or you have a person who really, 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 really enjoys a specific author or artist or something like that, check out their website too, because a lot of times you can get their book signed or personalized or things like that. So like, not to go away from your shopping local and giving to your local bookstores or comic book shops. But a lot of times they're very similar in pricing. The benefit of going to, like, for example, Briar or like Galactic is you don't have to pay shipping. And that's a big thing to me is you can just go there and buy it local. But when you buy directly from an artist themselves, like if you gave an example of The Aggregate here from Ben Bishop, when you buy from his website directly to him, he makes the most profit off of it he possibly can, because he doesn't have to pay someone else to sell it. But like I said, that's just a caveat to the idea of going to buy local. Still buying independent publishers, no matter where you buy it, is still supporting an independent publisher, which is pretty cool. So just think about that when you.
It's important. Yeah, it's important to remember that artists, creators, they're small businesses too.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to support them any way you can, whether it's picking up their work somewhere else, so that their work continues to sell through a place, that's fantastic. It keeps interest up, but also directly from them, like you said, and you can get some really great extras from them if you're getting them directly, signed copies, etc. And a lot of them also, sometimes if they're not selling themselves directly, they'll work through another store or something like that, so you can get signed copies, etc. So,
and that's what we mentioned before we started recording, was that Clown in the Cornfield you could buy from Adam's website that goes through a bookstore in Pennsylvania. They sell the book to you. It's signed by Adam. He goes into the shop, signs a few, and they send him out. So which is pretty cool. So and even people like James Tiny in the Fourth, who wrote, I don't have a graphic novel or trade paperback of it, but I have this right here of Something's Killing the Children. This is recommended by anybody who wants to read a horror comic book. But all of his stuff goes through Third Eye Comics. So when you buy stuff from his online store and stuff like that, he sells it through Third Eye. And so again, another local business that gets some sales for this through a publisher of sorts. So, but yeah, so I've gone through a couple here already that I recommend highly. I don't know if you have something you want to point out. You obviously picked up and showed me Clown in the Cornfield.
Oh, I got stuff. Specifically because I know that we're all geeks here, right? Yep. This is what's sort of this is the audience, and this is the type of books and items that we look for. The first things I have to bring up are a couple of awesome books that came out this year, which are still like high on my list of recommending. If you love Grant Morrison, you have to pick up his very first novel that he's written. It's called Luda. It is pure Grant Morrison. Like every far out Grant Morrison idea is, he just boils it right into this novel. So highly recommend Luda, especially if you're a Grant Morrison fan. The Doom Patrol stuff, all that, really amazing, far out, crazy ideas that he does. The other book that came out this year is Alan Moore's book of short stories, Illuminations. And if you're an Alan Moore fan like I am, this was like, no question, this was immediately going on the top of my TBR pile. If you are a diehard Alan Moore fan, it's possible you read some of these stories, because some of them have appeared in other publications and books and things like that, compilations, anthologies. But I'll tell you right now, I am really excited because I still have some signed copies of this book by Alan Moore. We were able to get some from the publisher, and then it was amazing. They actually had another case that I was able to order after I sold out the first time. So signed copies of Alan Moore's book of short stories, Illuminations, here at the Briar Patch. And I think that's, if you are a comic fan that loves these writers, or one, these are perfect gifts.
And that's like I said, that's one of those ones that, like I said about the whole buying a signed copy. That to me is like when my wife asked me what I want for Christmas, I was like, I like gave her a list of books, and I was like, but I have some of them, like for example, A Clown in the Cornfield. But that'd be really cool to have one that's a signed copy from Adam himself and have that on the shelf. Which was funny when Charles Soule came to Bangor and stopped by your shop and Paul's shop. I don't have yet. I have an audiobook version of Light of the Jedi. I don't have that book yet. So it was kind of funny when I gave him some books to get signed when I got all his comic books signed, that I don't actually have that. And my wife loaned anyone an Oracle year to a friend that week, or like 2 or 3 weeks prior to that. So they have them. And I was like, oh my God. Because buying those books from like Charles's website is like $30 or $40 signed. And I was just like, we own them. I could have gotten signed in person. But
I think I might still have a copy of Light of the Jedi signed here in the store. So
I'll send it right now. But what I do have is Cavan Scott's 2 of his books right now. There's the Rising Storm and Tempest Runner, which I believe was Tempest Runner was originally an audiobook, wasn't it? I could have sworn it was originally an audiobook and then they made it into a book. But
that was done as an audio presentation.
Yeah. And these are in the High Republic. So Cavan Scott, Charles Soule, and a number Claudia, is it Claudia Gray? Yeah. Are all part of the architects or the team that Star Wars and Disney hired to basically develop the High Republic world and universe in the Star Wars universe itself. So there's like, I don't know what, 10 novels now, probably more than that. From bigger ones like this to they've got the more like younger adult style ones that have some pretty cool stuff. So like, so like you have, was it Convergence? You have, which I can't see that.
Yeah, this is the second leg basically of the High Republic series. So they've got the adult novel Convergence, and then the young adult Path of Deceit, and then the middle grade Quest of the Hidden City, which is just fantastic that they've released. I love this whole concept of putting this this story out with multiple different stories in different formats, and whether it's audiobook or books and comics, and just really doing this whole media blitz of just different ways of fleshing out the entire era of the High Republic. It's fantastic.
And it's cool because it also, like, if you go to like, I think it's their website, they have like a website that tells you the order of the books, and in the order is like, it's like novel, comic book, novel, like it actually does go along. It's not like the comic book lives like we have right now in most comic books at Star Wars. It lives in a world that is based in the universe that the movies are in, but really don't ever really connect. It's not like the movies relate to something that happens in the comic books. Whereas this, it's like it's all in one story. It's just some are in written word full on, some have pictures, some are kids, some are children, teen, which is really cool. So yeah, Cavan Scott's stuff is amazing, and he'll be a guest on the podcast again. Shameless self-promotion there. He'll be on the podcast to chat with Nick Brokenshire. I think they're talking Dead Seas, which is a book they had at IDW that came out. But yeah, any of these High Republic books I recommend. It starts with Charles Soule though, with Light of the Jedi, technically the first one that came out. But yeah, actually technically the first one that came out is High Republic, the comic book, right? Because that came out before it, I believe.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, all those are worth reading in my opinion. Is the High Republic books. And there's, like I said, there's a bunch. Oh, and there's more. I went to mention to say that. I looked it up. So Star Wars Tales of the Rancor Pit. Have you seen this one? That's Cavan Scott with a bunch of various illustrators, including Nick Brokenshire, who's going to be on the podcast, like I mentioned. That's coming out. That's a pretty cool book. And he also has another one, the High Republic Starlight Stories, which comes out, I think, in December. Another one of those books that comes out. So it was funny. He was at a con, and he posted a picture of a person who came up and got that book signed, Starlight Stories. He's like, this book's not even out yet. He goes, oh, I have an advanced copy. It's fine. Don't worry. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I don't know if Mr. Scott has his own, copy of that book yet, and this guy gets it signed at a Comic-Con. It was pretty funny to see that. But yeah, I love. I mean, like I said, when Adam and I talk a lot about Star Wars stuff, I was just happy that there's so much stuff out there to read, and the High Republic stuff is in my opinion, is the next, like, our next generation Star Wars stuff. Like when you see movies and TV shows and things like that, it's going to be based in the High Republic, which is pretty cool. So I'm excited for that. So get started now and buy these books for your Star Wars fans in your life, because they're worth out there. And they're easy to read, and they're sci-fi, so obviously they're fun. But yeah. You got a little armrest there, all your books you have going on.
Oh, I've got tons, man. I've got tons. So just talking about a few other like comic related things. Obviously, biggest movie out in the world right now is Wakanda Forever. There's a couple of great tie-in books. I mean, there's actually many tie-in books and comics, obviously, to that movie. But something that I think is great that Marvel has been doing to help, the adult fan, share with their younger children fan, is a picture book series that they've done alongside some of the different movies. And so they have one for the new Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, The Courage to Dream, which is honestly the artwork in here for it's just is gorgeous artwork, and it's just a fantastic positive story using the characters from the movie. So if you have kids that are totally into this, totally into Black Panther, Shuri, everyone, then this is a great, fantastic book. And they've gotten some really, really well-known authors on some of these books too, and illustrators. So that's Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Another really cool book, and this is more for the adult reader, Dreams of Wakanda. And what this is it's different creators and writers and comic creators, basically writing little essays about the impact that the Black Panther movie has had on them and their world, the real world. Having this hugely positive, person of color film that, has created, a hero. I mean, obviously Black Panther was created, many, many years ago. But, for so many people, this was new, this was fresh. And what that did by opening up that world to everybody, in sort of a mainstream audience. And so this is a really cool book that kind of talks about that. I mean, some of the authors, I mean, you've got, everything from different writers to comic book creators to people that that are university professors that are teaching about Black Panther and the impact that the character in these movies have had. Just a really cool deep dive into how our geek culture is affecting this mainstream culture. That's really pretty fantastic. Another really cool book that we've been selling this year is Marvel Mazes. It's made for kids, but I gotta tell you, it's a lot of fun. It has a little bit of like a Where's Waldo aspect to it. So let me find one of these pages here. You've got here's New York, and you've got, it's hard to see with this video, but you've got all sorts of like different characters, and each page is a different sort of mission with different superheroes. This one's Spider-Man. There's different villains, hidden throughout: Electro, Sandman, Doc Ock, Mysterio, etc. But you also have to find little things too. There's this great one of the Fantastic Four fighting Galactus, and hidden on the page are two ultimate nullifiers you have to find as well as you're making your way through the maze. It's a lot of fun art.
That's badass.
If you like mazes, if you like Marvel, it's a lot of fun. And you've got kids, you can do it with your kids. So that's a lot. I really like that too.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned this stuff too, because like the tie-ins to Marvel, as I know with an 18-month-old, that when they see something, all they want is that one thing like around it. Yeah. So like when my son was sick with COVID this past summer, he wanted to watch the Cars movies over and over and over again. So like now he owns like toys and pajamas and blankets he has of the Cars and stuff like that. So now he's in the Encanto. So I feel like if I got something Encanto related from Disney that I could get, whatever. So like I was in Paul's shop at Galactic Comics when a mother came in with her daughter and said, my daughter watched the first episode of She-Hulk. do you have anything She-Hulk in here? And so as quickly as a kid or a young adult or someone watches something, if they go see Black Panther in the theaters, they're going to want everything that's surrounding it. So be prepared. Bring them to the theater. Then it's like, the next day, swing by the Briar Patch and pick up some Black Panther stuff to go around it, because they're going to want to. I tell you right now, it's the making the happiest people in the world when you have the surrounding things in their world to what they just fell in love with Black Panther. And again, like I said, like you said, I mean, it's unbelievably culturally significant right now with what Black Panther's doing, to this landscape of comic books or just the landscape of the world in general. But yeah, I love how you picked those books up. Anything else?
You got?
Oh, I got some more. Well, I wanted to pick out this one.
Turn.
You obviously you got to have this book, which is How to Draw the Comics the Marvel Way. This is just a classic one. When you mentioned the mazes one, I had to put that one up on here. Let's go with graphic novel. I don't want to do that one. I Hate Fairyland. Scotty Young. This is book number 1, volume 1, or I hate to say volume 1. This is the volume 1 of volume 1 of I Hate Fairyland, because volume 2 of I Hate Fairyland just actually dropped with Gertrude going back to Fairyland. But this is great. One of my favorite artists and writers of all time, Scotty Young. His artwork is just off the wall on here. It's just a fun story about a young girl getting caught in Fairyland, and she absolutely hates it. She's a horrible human being. But yeah, again, she's a little gullible, little tiny little character on this. We're actually reading this, and tomorrow night is recording this on Monday, but Tuesday night we're at book club at Galactic Comics and Collectibles, and we're actually going over this book. And I was actually ecstatic to read it again and again and again. I didn't own it until this past week, where I got this at Galactic Comics because I have all the the floppies. And so I just was reading those. And so I believe I have it digitally too. I think I've bought it every way possible. But Scotty Young is one of the best, and I love this book. And I'm just going to throw this one in there because I don't want to talk too long about it. I told Paul that I would recommend it. If you have a Batman fan in your life, buy them The Long Halloween if you want. It's cool. Awesome. Next.
It's a great story. Great story.
No, seriously, if you have a Batman fan in your life and they don't have this or have not read this, this is worth reading. I am not a Batman fan or a DC fan, and so that's why I wasn't ecstatic about this book. But I am ecstatic with the fact that it's a comic book that's what, 90s? Is this 90s? When did it come out? Yeah, it's gotta be 90s, right?
Maybe late 90s.
Oh God. Well, obviously that's the print of this. Yeah, 96. So mid to late 90s. Is the artwork in here is better than a lot of other 90s books. I just love the style of art that's in here. But like if you think about a lot of the
Tim
stuff
Sale was amazing in that book. Yeah.
Yes. And if a lot of the people who don't realize this, but a lot of the comic book and current iterations of media of Batman, a lot of it stems from this in year 1. So this is really worth picking up. They just put a new print out. I will say, I told Paul, I am not a fan of the cover they have on this one compared to the cover of the last edition of this. This cover is cool, but the last edition was just way more badass than this cover. But yeah, it's worth reading. It's pretty long. It takes place over a year in different holidays on Long Halloween. Very, very good book for Batman fans. But again, I only said that because I can't always not put DC stuff in there. So I own it. It's the only DC thing that I own. Well, no, I lie. I have the Heroes graphic novel that was put out by DC Comics here over here. So that's not technically, it's NBC TV show, but still. Okay, there you go. There's my DC thing in there, Paul. You can be happy that I mentioned DC Comics on the podcast. So
check.
Okay, how about I just quickly bookend that then? Then you should buy all of the Marvel.
Yes.
By Douglas Woke. This book is amazing. He reads every Marvel comic book basically. Was it 28,000 or something like that? Was that what it was? 27,000 plus comic books of Marvel, and wrote a book on it. It is unbelievably good, and it's a New York Times bestseller, I believe, isn't it? Or he is, at least. I don't know. If this is. And
there's a copy on my shelf, right? I'm gonna point to it right behind me, right there.
There you go. See, no, this book is amazing. Douglas came on last year and talked about the book. and how like how cool, like there's some rules he had to it about what he was doing, what he wasn't, has to be connected in a certain way. But the way he broke it up was really good too. It's not like just chronologically. It's not like he just goes from like the first comic book release to the last one. He goes through and picks out specific ones. He's also written a different book on comic books. So some of the stuff he wrote on the other book, he just kind of skipped in this one. So it's worth picking up other stuff he has. But he called it A Journey to the Ends of the Biggest Story Ever Told. It's really, really good. If you're a Marvel fan or a comic book fan in general, this book is worth reading because he read all of the, what does he say? He read all 27,000 comic books, so you didn't have to.
Right. But I want to.
I'm just thinking about it gives me a headache thinking about reading 27,000 copies of something. I can't. So this is really cool. I do enjoy this book. I probably will read it again at some point. But yeah, this is my actually this is my advanced copy, I think, honestly. No,
yeah,
this is my advanced copy. Yeah, this is my advanced copy. I actually paid for that one. I didn't pay for this one. I'll be honest. They sent me that one. But yeah, so that's, like I said, that's my Marvel and my DC. I wanted to go mostly independent on this stuff. But I mean, I guess this is technically independent because I mean, who is it? It's Penguin.
Yeah.
Penguin Press. But it's obviously it's about Marvel Comics, but it isn't Marvel Comics. The only one that I did that was actually a big two actual printing is the Long Halloween. But, well, I guess Star Wars is a big two, technically, right? The comic books.
The biggest.
Here's my question for you, though. I don't understand. We had this conversation at Paul's shop. So Star Wars is printed. The actual comic books have a Marvel logo on it, right? Like they're a Marvel copy, but they sell the rights or license the rights to things like Gargoyles to Dynamite to print. Why does Disney not have Disney Publishing as a comic? You know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't they just have a Disney logo comic book that has Gargoyles and Star Wars and all his other names to it that's printed under the Marvel Entertainment? Like, I don't know. I just feel like maybe it's less of a headache to just say here, Dynamite, because Dynamite's selling, like they sold out of Gargoyles #1 already.
Yeah.
And it's like, I would feel like Marvel would make more money if they actually just made it themselves than licensing it to another company. But I just think it was funny that there's so many, like I would love to buy like a Toy Story comic book or a Cars comic book or something. Like I just feel like it would be smart for them to do, but oh well.
Well, years ago, they had a division called Disney Comics, and they were publishing themselves. And they even had like, digest Disney Adventures that you would find like, alongside like the Archie digests, like in the supermarket, in the checkout aisle. But I think that sometime in the 90s, I believe, they got out of it. And that's when they just started licensing the stuff. They probably figured they had there were other professionals that could, take care of the properties, and they're obviously probably making money off it too. So,
well, what's funny to me is that
it's a win-win for them.
When I gave Paul like an advanced idea of what I want for like FOC, and I was like, I want the Gargoyles #1. I'm excited for that. Like, Gargoyles was a cartoon show that I grew up on, and he's like, absolutely. I go, what publisher is that? He goes, Dynamite. I go, this is gonna be the first Dynamite comic book that I own. I'm like, I don't own anything else. Those are all booby books, honestly. Well, actually,
Dynamite has some other stuff. There was some other stuff from.
Well, Dynamite. They have Hellboy, don't they?
Well, that was Dark Horse. But
I lied. I have Cryptozoic Man, which is the comic book that was written by the guys from Comic Book Men on AMC, and so technically I do have a Dynamite book. I forgot about that. So it's actually signed by them. Crap, I don't know where that went. I moved my shelf into alphabetical order one day when I was bored. But yeah, so yeah, I don't know. It's a little tangent there about Star Wars and Dynamite and publishing rights. But do you have anything else?
Yeah,
I'm sure you have everything else. Anything else? I've got 4 more.
Yeah. So speaking of comics, very fan. If you're familiar with Kate Beaton, who won strip and collection Hark of Vagrant, she has a new book out called Ducks, 2 years in the oil sands. This is nonfiction, really beautifully written and illustrated. Kate Beaton has just been, she's a comics darling of the literary comics field. And this is definitely one that I've had a lot of people looking for who may not be into like the superheroes and that type of stuff, you know, or even the horror, but they're, you know, into the more, you know, they tend to go towards those drawn and quarterly published books or those Fantagraphics, you know, those types of things. So that's definitely, if you've got someone who is, you know, the New Yorker reader of comics, you know, you've got this. But going on the opposite spectrum, you know, you can't, probably the biggest kids comic that sells right now across the board is Dogman and its spin-off series Cat Kid Comic Club. And actually tomorrow, Tuesday, the 29th, the fourth volume of Cat Kid Comic Club comes out. That's going to be just an instant bestseller. But also tomorrow comes out a new Dungeons and Dragons graphic novel series called Dungeon Club, and the first volume called Roll Call, which is written by Molly Knox Ostertag, who is pretty well known in the middle grade comics field for the Witch Boy series, the young adult book Girl from the Sea. And then it's illustrated by Xanth Boma, who is well known for the art in the Five Worlds graphic novel series as well. So pretty excited about this. You know, a lot of, you know, Dungeons and Dragons itself has, you know, hit like this new renaissance, you know, with all ages. You know, I think that possibly a lot of that happened during the pandemic, where a lot of families were starting to pick up Dungeons and Dragons. So you've got a lot more kids playing, I think, than you did in, you know, some previous years, alongside, you know, obviously scores of adults either, you know, staying with it or getting back into it. So Dungeons and Dragons related books for kids have been just gangbusters. So really excited to see that. And, you know, who doesn't love a Dungeons and Dragons graphic novel, a comic book, right? I mean, I feel like I grew up on the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon. As awful as it kind of was when you look at it now, it's still nostalgically just, you know, I love it so much. So, you know, to see something like also like that, you know, kids can get, you know, their hands around and just love, you know, just like being young and loving gargoyles, right? I mean, it's just, you're a gargoyles loving kid, you become a gargoyles loving adult. So just keep the nostalgia coming.
And there's this awesomeness that we live through right now that's not perfectly loved and upon everybody, but like being a fan of something as nerdy or geeky as Dungeons and Dragons isn't as bad as it used to be. You know what I mean? Like it used to be more, people used to crap on you a little bit more. Like there's a movie coming out for Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, like, that's just the way that the world is turning now, which I love. So picking up a nice book of that, that's a non-sick cough, by the way. Just I had coffee this morning cough.
Don't get your comic sick.
Yeah, exactly right. There we go. Look at that nice spot gloss on there. It's hard to see on this choppy video, but look at that spot gloss. So The Last Ronin, right here. They already delayed issue #1 of The Lost Year. So the sequel to this one was supposed to come out in November, and it's not coming out until January or February now, maybe March. But this is by our friend Ben Bishop, Kevin Eastman, Tom Waltz, Scorza Brothers, and Luis Antonio Delgado. This is a graphic novel. It's 5-issue trade hardback, I should say, hardcover.
Hardcover.
Yeah, so it's set in a dystopian future in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Heroes world. This is amazing. One of my favorite comic books of the past couple of years, and the artwork's amazing. And then, like I said, coming out in 2023 is the sequel to this one, which is called The Last Ronin, The Lost Years, with, again, Kevin Eastman and Tom Waltz attached to it. But Ben Bishop is now a series artist. He's doing most of the artwork in the book, which is really cool. And a local kid from Maine. And then I'll say what I'll do about this or add to it is I picked up earlier is the aggregate. This is available at Ben Bishop's website, bishart.net. This is a choose your own adventure graphic novel right here. So you has at the bottom of the page, keep running or turn around, and you go. So it's basically a choose your own adventure. There's over 100 different ways that you can read this book, supposedly. And so this is a really cool book by Split Decision Comics, aggregate from Ben Bishop. He did everything in this book except for, I think he did do colors, right? You didn't color it.
That's a great book. I'm still eagerly awaiting book 2.
Yes.
But I have to mention, because I'm not sure if you know this story, but so we can't call it a choose your own adventure comic. And actually his company, his comic company is called Split Decision Comics,
yes.
because I believe he actually got a cease and desist letter from the company that, Choose Your Own Adventure Co. That owns that copyright and trademark, who is notorious for, seeking out people that are using the phrase choose your own adventure, because it's become almost like, generic. Like we all call everything that is like that a choose your own adventure or something, right? But yeah, they're notorious for going after people who use that phrase and saying, we own that phrase, you cannot use it. So
Split Decision.
Watch out.
So you're making your own decisions in this book, on that. And so who was it? Brittany, I had it right here. Brittany Peer did the colors. Ryan Wing, another local kid, did the editing on it. Again, another spot gloss. This is actually a Kickstarter edition of the book that honestly I did not buy via Kickstarter. I already told Ben this. This is an eBay find for $5. $5. I told Ben, I was like, I didn't buy it from your website because I was able to get a Kickstarter edition signed by you already for $5 on eBay. And he's like, I want to know who this person is that sold this book for $5 on eBay. I'm like, yeah, they're going to miss it in years to come. But yeah.
Is it numbered on the back too?
Yes, it is. I think, where is it? 125.
There you go.
Number 125.
I can't remember what number I have. Yeah.
But so it's just kind of funny having that book not backing him on Kickstarter and paying almost nothing. I mean, he got his money for it, so it's not like he cares, but like it was kind of funny to see that I had that. So those are available on his website. He has all kinds of variant things. He also has, I have every copy of Nathan the Caveman. There's like 5 or 6 different copies, including a leather bound book. But you can get those on his website.
Leather bound.
Yeah, I have leather bound, like the different variant covers. Yeah. I have so many that I've started to like give away some of them to as presents to people. I'm like, I don't need 7 of these books, like taking up too much space on my shelf here. But yeah, so if you're looking for a nice, cool trade, the last Ronin comic book or hardcover is hard to find sometimes, but I believe you have some, or you can get some.
I do have one in stock right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would say most LCSs don't have many in stock, but I would check with your bookstore, local bookstores, because sometimes for some reason, some people think of them second according to their LCS. I mean, this is a comic book, so I could understand why you'd go to your LCS first. But yeah, check out your local comic book store or bookstore if your LCS doesn't have it. If you're in the Bangor area, grab the last copy from Briar Patch, because if you've got a turtle fan in your life or yourself, just be selfish and buy yourself a Christmas present. Last Ronin.
Yeah, and we've been a fan of, I've personally been a fan of Ben since, the first Nathan the Caveman came out. And, we obviously carried Last Ronin, like we said. But, we also carry some of his other earlier works, Lost Trail, like we have up right now. Yeah, which is a new version of the Lost on the Mountain in Maine story about Don Fendler. We also have Far Side of the Moon, another graphic novel. Yep. That he did with Maine writer Alex Irvine. Again, things that we carry all the time here at the store, not only to, yep, that's awesome too, John. Yeah. Because, we want to support, local creators, as well as, having great books available for customers in the store. So here's something else. We talked about fandoms, right? So there's no end to the amount of fandoms that are out there. A lot of people are watching House of the Dragon right now. There's this great illustrated book, The Rise of the Dragon, an illustrated history of the Targaryen dynasty. This is volume 1. This just recently came out about a month ago. Gorgeous artwork in this book, tracing the whole history of that family, of that dynasty. So if you have a Game of Thrones fan on your list, this is definitely one to make sure that you got under the tree or any other way you're giving holiday gifts this year. We're coming up, or we're in the 40th anniversary of the Dark Crystal, which is amazing and makes me feel very old. You might have caught the Netflix Dark Crystal series that came out. That sounds like we'll never get a second series of that, unfortunately, just because it was so expensive to make. But there's an amazing 4-part book series that was written by J.M. Lee, who actually won a contest with the Jim Henson Company to be able to write these books. It starts with Shadow of the Dark Crystal. So if you are or have a Dark Crystal fan in your life, you do not want to miss these. We carry them regularly here in the store, along with some other Dark Crystal and Labyrinth tie-in books. So those are a lot of fun. Dune. Oh, yeah. Everybody loves Dune. We can't wait for the second movie to come out. This hardcover collector's edition has been out for a while of the first book. Beautiful blue stained edge pages, just a sort of, I don't know if you can see it very well, but it's like this almost holographic, shimmery dust jacket. Some amazing artwork on the actual cover itself. Fear's the Mind Killer. And then the end pages, some beautiful artwork inside the dust jacket. Anyways, this is a beautiful edition. We've long been waiting to find out if the publisher is going to come out with any of the other books in the original Frank Herbert series. And the answer is yes. I think it is April. Dune Messiah and Children of Dune will also be coming out in these hardcover collector's edition with all the bells and whistles, just like this one. So this starts someone off, they're a Dune fan, get this book for their bookshelf so that they can just start collecting this amazing, beautiful version of this series. Definitely. Tolkien fans, again, another tie into a current show. We won't talk about the service that's on. But I think it was last year, they came out with a new Lord of the Rings collector's edition hardcover that has like 2 maps in it, illustrations by Tolkien himself. Beautiful, beautiful edition with Elvish writing on the side. And so they came out with a version that matches that, the Silmarillion collector's edition. Again, illustrations by the author. It's got these green stained pages and also Elvish writing on the side. Definitely a must-have for Tolkien, Lord of the Rings fans. And then they also just came out with this new book called The Fall of Numenor, which takes all the different Numenor stories that have appeared in different publications, either from Tolkien himself or finished by his son Christopher, and compiles them all in the order that the story of Numenor happens along in the Second Age. And that is found in the appendices of Lord of the Rings. So another beautiful edition hardcover. Nice to have all those stories in one place, read through them, really get into that epic story. So yeah, more everything for every fandom is out there and available. You just gotta find it.
Which is amazing because, like I said, it's awesome to be a nerd and a geek nowadays to the things that are at your fingertips, but also like I don't know, it's one of those things I want to instill in my child is I wasn't a big reader as a kid or a young adult, and kind of missed the fact that I did, and now I'm trying to catch up, but there's only so many hours in the day that you can spend reading and doing other things as well, like life. And so there's a lot like a stack of not only just graphic novels, there's a stack of novels. It's like, I mean, I like to learn about people. So I read like Nick Offerman's first book and man, whoa, all those different books like that too. So, but the book I just took a break from to read, Clown in the Cornfield, is The Living Dead, which is by George A. Romero, but also finished by Daniel Kraus, who also is writing the new series of Year Zero, the comic book, the zombie comic book that's out by AWA. Shameless plug. Daniel Kraus will be on the podcast in 2023. But yeah, so this book's awesome. He is a New York Times bestseller. He's done a bunch of different stuff. He's finished this book. He did a book with who is it with? Guillermo del Toro. He did Troll Hunters. So there is a number of books that Daniel's done and stuff like this, but this is amazing. I can't it's so fathom the idea that George A. Romero would write a book and he would pass away, sadly, and that they'd call upon Daniel Kraus to finish the book for him is just a thought. He must have been pinching himself. Like, I can't wait to ask him. I mean, he's obviously worked with some pretty big people, but like, this guy is the godfather of zombies. And so like the fact that he was able to finish this book for him, it's funny because I bought it originally on audiobook. And so I just started listening to it. This is great. And then I bought the actual physical copy and I was like, holy shit, I'm listening to this forever. Not realizing how big of a book it was. No, but it's great. I mean, it's an excellent book so far. Like I said, I've read the first, quarter of it or so. I'm loving how it's been portrayed and out there. I love zombie stuff, Walking Dead, obviously Living Dead stuff. It got a nice little quote on the top here from Joe Hill. Look at that. Nice. A work of glory genius. But yeah, so this is a book is amazing. I'm really excited for this. I mean, anything Daniel Kraus has actually done, and actually George A. Romero has done, to me is a home run. And so I'm excited to talk to him about this and Year Zero, the book that he wrote for AWA, a zombie book, comic book. So George A. Romero's and Daniel Kraus's Living Dead is on my list.
And that's definitely a book that we carry in stock here at the store. And a shout out to the imprint that's published under, Tor Nightfire. This is in the last couple of years is a new imprint. It's a horror imprint. We actually carry the full line of their books and continue to bring them in. It's some really, really great authors. They're starting to republish some things like Brian Lumley's Necroscope, and just really fantastic line of horror books. They even have some, compilations of short stories and even some a little bit of nonfiction as well about, horror, the genre. But if you love horror, I definitely recommend taking a look at some of the stuff that Tor Nightfire has been publishing.
I was flipping through that, looking for the publisher on here, and I saw For George, I Never Got to Thank You, DK, for Daniel Kraus. That's awesome. It's like, it's such a cool thing. And it's funny because I found out about this after. Again, I found out about a lot of novels based on what they do for comic books, because that's where I focus my attention to. And so I really like the idea that if anybody out there is a novelist or an author and wants to write a comic book, you might have an untapped market that might buy your book because they don't pay attention to novels or authors that much. And so like the number of books that I've now purchased that were Daniel Kraus's books because I read his comic book is huge. So it's the same thing that goes for Stephen Graham Jones in his book. So I loved Earth Divers, which is a book he put out with IDW. And then I was like, okay, I got to pick up My Heart is a Chainsaw. And he's got a couple of other books. He's like 30 books, but like that are attached to this book that are coming or in the making. New York Times bestselling author right here. Stephen Graham Jones was on the podcast a couple of weeks ago talking about Earth Divers. But yeah, this is another great book to read from an awesome author. And so pick this one up too. My Heart is a Chainsaw. I don't know if you have these books or not. Do you have anything from Stephen Graham Jones?
Oh yeah, always carry Stephen Graham Jones. Yes.
There you go. So, the last thing I wanted to really say before, because we gotta get open, right? Is talking about dust jackets. Okay, this is the last one. This is the IDW exclusive Ben Bishop variant cover of the Last Ronin's trade paperback or hardcover. What pisses me off is that take the dust jacket off, which is what I bought it for, right? Because that's a Ben Bishop cover. Look at the badass this book is. Like, what the hell? I want this book to be the one that I have. Like, why is this like underneath that? Like, it's so annoying. It's got like a spot gloss in red and blood, it looks like. And then Ben obviously gave me a little drawing on the inside of it. But yeah, I was just so pissed when I took the jacket off of it. I'm like, what the hell? This cover is awesome. Why isn't this the cover that like was on the shelf? Or like, why can't I just buy this cover by itself? But what's inside is really what's important, right? It's what the inside of it is. But yeah, that's pretty fun.
Don't judge a book by its dust cover.
Yeah, exactly, right? So there is. I could go on and on and on with the books that I have on the shelf behind me. The last thing that I really want to just point out, again, I don't have the trade because I have it in floppies. Is this is a Jonathan Hedrick's The Recount. If you're into any political thrillers, this is a 4-issue series that came out on Scout Comics. It's available in trade paperback about political. It's a political thriller, so it's an amazing story if you're into that. And he's done a bunch of different stuff for different publishers, but this is one of my favorite comic books of all time. So that's available in trade at your local comic book shop or bookstore. and available, I believe, on his website as well. So I've refrained from buying, which I want to buy on his website, is the printing plates. There's available pages of printing plates from this comic book that I'm just waiting. One of these days, I'm just hoping he just sends me. I've had him on the podcast twice. I deserve it. It's fine. No. So yeah, that was.
I gotta say, you've had some amazing guests on your podcast, and even I'm so excited about some of the upcoming guests as well. And it's really awesome. I mean, it's like, congratulations on getting these people on. I think it's fantastic.
It's hard too, because I'm trying. The problem is, what I'm trying to do for 2023 is get them before their things are released, or when they're like trades or other things are coming out. Because right now I fall in love with these authors or creators after I've read what the issue number 1 comes out. So it's like, sometimes they're less likely to be on there. But I do have, so David Booher, Boohr. He's coming on, who wrote Canto and All New Firefly and Specs. He's a new comic book over at Boom. Daniel Krause, Adam Caesar and David Stoll, Kevin Scott and Nick Brokenshire, Rich Koslowski and Cullen Bunn. And then we're also getting Brandon Crane and Ben Heller, 2 losers from Stephen King's It from 1990, are also coming on. And I'm working on, hopefully Will can help me out here with David Howard Thornton and what's his name? I can't remember his name. Damien from Terrifier, the movie Terrifier, to come on the podcast, because David Howard Thornton is also going to be a trailer drops today for The Mean One, which is a horror version of The Grinch. So he's plays the Grinch in that, so that'd be kind of fun. Hopefully it's much better than the movie that I'm watching right now called The Killing Tree. It's about a possessed tree, Christmas tree. It's so bad, Brian.
Somebody had to make it,
It's so bad. I was just like, oh my God, this is horrible. It was originally called Demonic Christmas Tree, and they changed it to The Killing Tree. And it's the tagline. You ready for this? Deck the halls ... with blood.
What? Who's the marketing on this?
I don't know. And the picture for the thing is amazing. It's like a tree around and a skull with blood in the snow, and the tree. It's just really cool. I'll have to say the picture of it, but it's really fun to do that. So, but yeah, it's kind of funny. That's all I have. I don't know if you have anything else you want to throw in there really quickly before you close up or finish up.
Just real quick. For those who are watching or listening to the podcast who are local, we're down here, the Briar Patch in downtown Bangor, and we have more than just books, and we've got more than graphic novels. We've got things for kids at different ages. We got puzzles, games. You see a whole tree of over this way, puppets behind me over here. We've got some plush. If you're a fan of the crayons, we've got our friends Red and Green here with Santa hats. But lots of fun stuff here. And we also have, not that I want to promote buying online on Cider Monday, but yes, we do have a website, and you can order books from us or other items direct from our website, briarpatchbooks.com. We ship all over the US, and also because you, Justin, are such an audiobook fan, I do want to mention that we have a digital download audiobook service called Libro.fm, Libro.fm, and it's very similar to that other audio company that is owned by another much larger company, but this is one that has been developed that carries nearly every book that you'll find anywhere else on audio, and it just is more independently minded. When you sign up with them, you can choose a local bookstore so that they get the benefit of any books that you order on audio from them. And they're really great, some really great sales. They're all DRM free. So a really great company, Libro.fm. And right now there's all sorts of sales going on. I think today might be the last day of different bundles. So you can get a 3-book bundle or 9-book bundle or whatever for an audiobook lover on your Christmas list. So really fun stuff. So check out Libro.fm.
Yeah, it's briarpatchbooks.com has your link tree, right? So it has all the different places on there as well. And we'll link it on the actual website, capesandtights.com. We'll have some links on there too. Do you know when a cutoff would be for people to order and ship, or do you not know that right now? Would you say 2 weeks prior, or
Yeah, 2 weeks prior is really going to be your best bet because you just never know what's going to happen with shipping. But like if you go to our website and you go to our link tree with the bookshop.org link, you can choose your shipping method. So if you want to ship it, priority, or you want to ship it media mail, you can kind of, make that determination. But, just honestly shop early.
Yep. No, that's the best way to do it. Yeah, it's the best way to do it. And let's be honest, go to your shop. Like I said, if you're in the Bangor area, go to Briar Patch. But like, if you're not and you're in a local area, go to your local. There's bookstores in every town. I sent Gibran a little picture when I was in New York City at another bookstore saying I'm cheating on you. And he was like, honestly, there's no Briar Patch in New York City, so I can't go to Briar Patch in New York City, so I have to do what I have to do.
That's right.
But it was Strand. I mean, come on, it was a nice bookstore. My son got a T-shirt.
Miles and miles of books.
Yeah. Yes. But yes, absolutely, check them out. The BriarPatchBooks.com. Find them on Facebook and all that stuff. Gibran will be back in a couple weeks to talk some holiday special.
Ooh.
Star Wars holiday special. Have you watched the Guardians of the Galaxy special?
I haven't yet. So I've been busy rehearsing. I'm in local theater production of Peter and the Starcatcher. So I'm very busy with the store and with rehearsals, but I'm hoping maybe tonight I'll get to the Guardians of the Galaxy special.
So worth it. My wife and I absolutely loved it. I feel like it's going to be a perennial, every year watch this thing, and hopefully they'll come up with more specials over at Marvel, because it was fun. It was definitely fun. So not as big a fan of Spirited from Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds.
Really?
Here's the deal. It's a musical, and I feel like it would have been a smash hit, in my opinion, like Elf for Will Ferrell, if there wasn't a musical part. Not nothing against musicals. It was just like they were trying to be too different of a story. Like the story was already different, and then they added the musical aspect to it. It was like, okay, it was just one element too far, in my opinion. That like the story itself and the comedy and the acting would have been perfect without it, and that's where they lost me on it. So, and I do believe A Christmas Story Christmas was a nice follow up to A Christmas Story. I do give that credit. So if anyone wants to watch that one, that's available out there as well. Apple TV was the one that did the Spirited one. I'm not going to say the other company that did the other one, but yeah, so awesome. Gibran, thank you so much for coming on. And again, anybody who watched this podcast, thank you for bearing with us. If you're listening to it, it should be no problem. And check us out at capesandtights.com. And yeah, well, I'll talk to you in a couple weeks, man. Or I'll see you before then, because I got to pick up my books.
We'll see you then.